Raise your hand if you're familiar with the hashtag #GrindsMyGears. Yeah? Awesome. So my friend and colleague, Tim Wilson, I believe he was speaking, where's that place you guys go in the mountains? Super Week. He was doing a Super Week presentation about things that grinds his gears. These are things in the analytics industry, in his case, that he's been trying to explain or fix since basically the beginning of his career, that he's still trying to explain or fix. So he created, because he's Tim, he created a Shiny app, which I'll give you guys the link to it, and you can literally click Get a Gripe and learn about Tim's gripes. So here's an example. One of Tim's gripes is the word insights. He says it's such an overused term, it's meaningless. There's a paradox, a hope for weekly insights, but frustration that the insights are not mind-blowing game changers. Because if they're weekly, they're probably not. So guys, what grinds your gears? This is a risk of having like the nicest panel. Everybody just pass the mic. There you go.
Well, I'm not so nice. That's, to be honest, I'm like the least nice person in this conference, except for maybe Michael. You said it's a bingo word. Let me think if I can think of another bingo word. But I do think, we're in analytics, and it's hard. It's like a hard job, and we're really supposed to be doing. I think one should be doing basically scientific marketing. And so it's supposed to be science in a way. And I do think that, unfortunately, there's a lot of, instead of science, there's a lot of ritualized behavior. And instead of science, it's more often, I shouldn't say more often, but occasionally it's more of a cargo cult. And so I guess it's back to magical thinking. It's instead of sitting and spending time thinking about the problem and decomposing what actually you're trying to do, people instead sometimes engage in solutionism and look to technology, which is us, but look to technology to solve the problem and do the work. When in reality, the value and the hard work has to be done by the client. There's no other way around it. And we and no other technology is going to solve that for you. You have to do the hard work, and then we're just going to help you enable it. So I guess grinding my gears is just magical thinking is the main one in our industry. Bingo. Which I already said. But.
And, no.
I agree, and you're totally wrong.
Actually, Matt, I'll build on that too. I think building more complex than the sophistication of the organization seems to be like a common occurrence, right? Is thinking of the fringe cases that you need to build your tech stack for, when in reality you aren't doing any of that today. You're not even doing the simplest things. Start simple and justify complexity where appropriate, right? Is really what makes sense. And so when you walk into an organization and the tech stack is all over the place because this particular person felt there were all these use cases that would require all of this complexity, and this is the solution that made the most sense in that space, but it won't connect with anything else we've got across horizontally, it's frustrating, right? So do it and build into the complexity that you need, I think is the right
Or
answer.
it's signaling. And so it's like they don't really need all this complexity, but someone wants to signal their sophistication of themselves or the team.
Through the stack.
It's a total waste of resources.
Yep.
I think what grinds my gears is the interpretation of data that is completely unfounded. So often, well, I mean, in A/B testing at least, we have a result, but that's all we have. We have a what happened, but we don't know why. And the incessant need to hear everyone's opinion on why that happened and believe the hippo, because he must know why this happened, is insane. And it happens all the time. And that grinds the hell out of my gears.
Cheers.
I've got a beer now, so now we're going.
All right.
Now we're going.
And another thing.
But it has resulted in our company. It has resulted in this entire arm of my org that collects qualitative customer feedback to try and get the why behind the what. And that's the only way I've been able to sort of counteract this misinterpretation of data. So it's been successful, but that's expensive.
That's
Very.
actually a perfect segue to mine, actually. Is this working? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is VOC. I hate the way most companies do VOC. I really hate it. Every time I take an online survey that is, 30 questions long, totally boring, isn't responsive to what I did on the actual website, doesn't change when I tell it something, asks me, after I give someone a 1 rating out of 10, doesn't ask me why. All of that stuff drives me nuts. And I think the way we treat VOC in business is just pathetic. It's an incredibly powerful, easily deployable, very inexpensive tool that everybody should be using, whether we're behavioral analysts or whether we're brand marketers. It has so many applications and it's so underutilized. And it's not the fault of the technology. It's entirely the organization's fault. I feel like that's something that I've been talking to clients about for years and rarely saw changed. And I don't think there's a single area of analytics that is less developed and less well used than VOC. So following up on your comment, I totally agree with that. That's one of the great uses, and it just drives me nuts the way people actually deploy it in the real world. So, yeah.
Follow that up.
Wow.
Yes, and
I need something. I feel like I should be drinking now. This is more specific because of what I do. But like when an experiment doesn't go quite the way it should go, well, 2 things really, right? One is it seems like people don't ask why until the experiment is negative. It's like when it's positive, everyone's happy, and they're very happy to report the numbers, right? But when it's negative, it's like, oh yeah, okay, no, something's wrong. And then on top of that, from my perspective, they're always like, there's something wrong with your tool.
it's your fault.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute.
Why does it bother you?
Yeah, so I mean, I was thinking about this answer, and I'm like, I'm being recorded, so I have to be careful how far I go into this. But let's just stop there.
Matt, did you already share one?
I started it.
You started it?
Yeah.
All right.
You forgot.
I did. I forgot. It wasn't that important. You got one?
I'm going to add one more, 'cause mine was kind of built on Matt's
You can have
anyway,
as
so-
many as you
All
want.
right.
Did you hear that, Matt?
I'm a silent.
Go ahead, Rusty.
Yeah, I think this burns me too. When an organization believes that analytics is something that's done over there on a team, and when they're done, you turn a spigot and an answer comes out of a team about what to do.
That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, ask the analytics guys, they'll tell us what to do, right?
Uh-huh.
That's
The answer's
not.
42.
Yeah. It's a cultural change. It's an embracing of, like, it's a learning process. You have to be open to it. You have to embrace the question that data presents and use test and learn to get answers to those questions, to open other doors. And like, it's a process of learning, a continuous process of learning. And the lack of understanding in the business around that culture really can be frustrating, I think, so.
Yeah, totally agree.